What's up, YouTube? My name is Batman, and I want to go into deeper depths of what the perfect Call of Duty would look like. And if you haven't seen Part 1, you should probably go watch it first, because a lot of what I'm talking about here is based off of the Part 1 Scorestreaks system. Now, what we've established so far is the Scorestreaks system itself. Now, how do we turn that into a huge clusterfuck? Because that's the goal here. And the answer is through all the score streaks people will be getting, and how those score streaks ultimately will interact with one another. Now, the score streaks themselves would be broken up into 5 categories, alright? Minor, light, medium, heavy, and extreme. Now, players get to choose 5 streaks total, alright? And they can choose whatever streaks they want. You know, they can get, 3 medium streaks, 1 heavy, 1 extreme. They can do all 5 in the light category, or they can do all 5 in the extreme category. They can put them wherever they want, alright? The minor streaks would be the non-lethals, right? Like UAV, counter UAV, Guardian, ballistic vests, recon drone, along with personnel upgrades, which I think are going to be important because with all the score streaks going up, the actual player characters themselves, the motherfuckers with guns, they're going to need to be able to compete with those score streaks. The game itself is all about options, and what you don't want is for the only option to be getting a good point reward and fighting with that. You want infantry play to be an option as well. So for the personnel upgrades in the minor category, you have like speed boost and minor health regen, which would speed up the rate of health regeneration just a tad. Now, the UAVs would have to work a bit differently than they have before, because I imagine there would be a shitload of UAVs and counter UAVs up in the air all the time. Because like even in Modern Warfare 3, there was basically a permanent UAV up on both teams for the entire match, because all it took was 1 or 2 people running support class UAV to make that UAV permanent, And in this new Call of Duty, there are probably going to be a lot more than 2 people running UAVs. So for starters, the UAVs and the counter UAVs, they stay up permanently, alright, until they're shot down. And what you do is make 1 counter UAV negate 1 regular UAV. And the effectiveness of your radar depends on how many net UAVs you have up. So at first, it'll just work like it usually does, right? With UAVs, the more you have up, the faster it will give you information. The faster that little line will move up and down on your mini-map that shows all the red dots. However, at net 5 UAVs, the UAV turns into an advanced UAV. It shows people's directions and whatnot. And then at net 8 UAVs, the radar turns into a blackbird. And it should be hard to reach this. It should be hard to reach the blackbird effect, because motherfuckers will be calling in a lot of counter UAVs as well, I imagine. So, because you have 5 streaks to choose from. So if you get 6 UAVs up, but the enemy team has 4 counter UAVs up, your UAV is not going to be that powerful because it's only net 2 UAVs, right? You see how that works? And keep in mind, people will have Stinger missiles as well. And I can kind of imagine just like 2 or 3 guys staying in the back of the map, just constantly shooting shit down, taking out UAVs and counter UAVs. And so it will turn into this really cool arms race of the UAVs. One moment you have a blackbird for those 15 seconds, your team is playing at an advantage. Some of your UAVs get shot down, counter UAVs get called in, you're back down to a regular UAV. Suddenly the enemy has a ton of UAVs up and they're playing at an advantage. Just this constant changing dynamic, the flow of battle entirely unique from one moment to the next. One moment you're at the advantage, next moment the enemy's at the advantage. Things are just constantly changing, just a minor addition to the clusterfuck. Now, the guys in the back shooting down air support, I imagine this will be one way to play the game. And again, it's about diversity and options in how you play. If you want to be a support player and try to reduce the amount of air support, go for it. But the way you shoot things down would need to be fundamentally different. As it is, it's too easy. Because you point and you wait 3 seconds, it's kind of silly. It needs to take some skill to shoot things down, because there's always going to be a lot of stuff in the air. There will always be something to shoot down. It's not like every now and then a lodestar comes up. The idea is, with the score streak system, there will always be dozens and dozens of streaks in the air, and it's going to be sort of silly if a guy can just sit in the back of the map with a stinger and shoot them down as quickly as they're being called up, So how do you make it take skill? Well, what I was thinking is, when they ADS with a stinger, they get locked on the aircraft. They have to play like a little mini game. And you've played one of these mini games before. I'm sure they have them in most open world games, like when you have to hack a piece of equipment or unlock something. I thought Crysis 3 actually had a pretty good one, When you had to hack a piece of equipment, they would have this ball that would jump up and down at random times and speeds, and you had to hit the A button exactly as it passed through the middle of the screen. And for the really hard equipment, you'd have to actually anticipate when it was going to happen, because if you waited for it to be in the middle of the screen, for that signal to reach your brain and then, hit A, it would be too late. And so when you lock on with the Stinger, you should have to do one of those little mini games, and that way it actually takes some skill to shoot things down. And obviously the mini game would not be that difficult for like UAVs, for minor and light streaks it would be trivial, you know, anyone can do it. But for the more powerful streaks, you know, the ones from the extreme category, the little mini game suddenly gets very hard, and you probably have to try a couple times to get that motherfucker down. And so that in itself would be another way to play the game, right? A whole new way to play the match, a new option of gameplay. Now, moving on, the light streaks category would include sentry guns, predator missile, RCXD, hunter killer, IMS, along with the score streak weapons. So, you know, war machine, death machine, a flamethrower of some kind. I think they need to bring that in, a rocket launcher of some kind. And again, it's important to empower the player with powerful weapons because the players are going to have to compete with a lot of score streaks. The score streaks, and in particular the vehicular streaks, which there are going to be a lot of in the medium, heavy, and extreme categories, cannot be wildly overpowered like they are in Call of Duty now. And obviously they're supposed to be wildly overpowered in the system as it is now, because the idea is they're harder to get and there are generally not that many of them up at once. But in this new Call of Duty, the idea is there will be multiple streaks in the air fighting at all times. It's part of the clusterfuck. In Call of Duty as it is now, the score streaks just shit on people. It takes very little skill on the player's part. Once they've reached the streak, for instance, the escort drone, once you have the escort drone, all you really got to do is walk into the enemy spawn and take cover, and you'll kill everyone in the area. Swarms end games because everyone quits because there's nothing you can do against it. Same with load stars and shit. The streaks are very powerful and take very little skill to use. In this new Call of Duty, it should take skill to use the streaks. You have to pilot your chopper. You have to dodge rockets and personally make the decision to deploy flares. And most importantly, you have to aim and move the thing around. All right? It wouldn't just be auto-aim from the computer. The same mentality would apply to all streaks. Halo Reach, I think, was very good at balancing their vehicles. I think in Halo 4, vehicles are actually a little underpowered to the point it doesn't really make sense to use them because everyone can spawn in with a plasma pistol, secondary, and plasma grenades. But in Reach, it was perfect, excluding the Goshawk, which was way overpowered. But in Reach, a vehicle could overpower an enemy. It was stronger than an enemy, but it wasn't some unstoppable force that nobody could fight back against. In Call of Duty, when there's a streak in the air and you don't have a stinger, your only option is to hide. It can't be that way in the new Call of Duty because then infantry would be effectively useless. If there's always streaks in the air, they will always be hiding. The players will always have to be hiding because they'll have no other option. In Reach, a vehicle could be super effective. It could drastically change the outcome of a match and deliver a lot of pain to the enemy, but the only way you could do this is if you use the vehicle intelligently. You couldn't take a Warthog and just spam into the enemy spawn and immediately and easily kill the shit out of everyone, because if you ran into too many opponents at a time, they would all spam bullets into you and overwhelm you. Same was true with the Banshee. You had to be very careful about running into too many bad guys at once. And even with the tank, which was the most powerful vehicle in the game, you had to keep your distance, because if you got too close, a couple grenades could take you out, or of course you might get boarded. And so it created this perfect balance where the vehicle had way more power than the infantry, but the infantry could fight back if it needed to. You couldn't abuse the power you had in the vehicle and get away with it. And if you really wanted to make the most of it and go on rampages, it took a level of skill that was only acquired through practice. That's not how it is in COD. If I get an escort drone, I can give the controller to my 10-year-old little brother and tell him to walk around the map, and he will get kills easily. Please remember to rate the video. Thanks for watching. Force be with you. This is Batman signing out.